I'm Sarah Thompson, a 38-year-old homemaker living in a quiet suburb of Michigan. Outside my window, the autumn wind rustles through the trees, which are just starting to change color, scattering fallen leaves across our yard. Mom, I can't find my soccer cleats. I can't help but smile at the sound of my son Ethan's voice coming from upstairs. He just turned 8 this year. He's a bright, energetic boy who loves soccer. Check under your bed, honey. That's where you left them yesterday. I call back gently while continuing to prepare breakfast in the kitchen. The rich aroma of toast fills the room as the coffee maker slowly begins to drip. My husband Michael has already left for work. He works at a local construction company and has been busy lately with a big project he's been put in charge of. Sarah, you're the best. I couldn't do this without you, he says every morning, giving me a kiss before he leaves. Those words give me the energy I need to start my day. However, there's one thing that casts a shadow over this peaceful daily life. It's my relationship with my mother-in-law, Eleanor. Sarah, dear. I hope you're not feeding Ethan those processed cereals again. They're full of sugar, you know. I sigh as I remember Eleanor's sudden visit during breakfast just the other day. She criticizes my parenting methods at every opportunity and tries to impose her upper-class manners on us. Mom, I appreciate your concern, but Ethan's pediatrician says his diet is perfectly healthy. I try to respond as calmly as possible, but every word from my mother-in-law stings. Michael says, Mom means well, Sarah. She just shows it differently, but sometimes it really wears me out. Amidst all this, our family received some wonderful news. I'm pregnant with our second child. The joy I felt when the pregnancy test came back positive is indescribable. When I told Michael we're having another baby, he hugged me and gave me the happiest smile. Ethan was thrilled too, saying, I'm gonna be a big brother. The whole family is eagerly awaiting the arrival of our new little one. But along with the joy comes some anxiety. I'm worried about Eleanor's reaction. She's always said, a Thompson should have at least one son and one daughter. What if it's another boy? The thought makes my chest tighten. Still, I'm determined to stay positive. I believe this child's birth will make our family stronger and more loving. In the sun-drenched kitchen, I find myself unconsciously placing a hand on my belly, speaking to the tiny life within. Welcome to our family, little one. We can't wait to meet you. One sunny Saturday afternoon, our family was enjoying a picnic in the backyard. Ethan was playing with his new frisbee, and Michael was preparing lunch on the barbecue grill. I was 5 months pregnant, and my belly was starting to show a little. Sarah, you're glowing, Michael smiles at me gently. Pregnancy suits you. Just then, we heard the sound of a delivery truck stopping in front of our house. I'll get it. Michael calls out, walking to the gate. A little while later, he returns carrying a medium-sized box. It's from Mom, Michael says. Looks like a baby gift. I stare at the box with mixed feelings. A gift from Eleanor. It's probably something expensive. But I'm sure there are expectations and demands hidden behind it. Should we open it now? Michael asks, but suddenly Ethan drops his frisbee and runs over. No. Don't open it, Mom. There's an urgency in Ethan's voice that I've never heard before. His eyes are wide with fear, and his small body is trembling. Ethan, honey, what's wrong? I place my hand on my son's shoulder, trying to calm him down. The box, it's bad. I can feel it. Please, don't open it. Ethan sometimes has the ability to see things that ordinary children can't. We call it Ethan's special sense. At first, we thought it was just a child's imagination, but after his senses proved accurate a few times, we gradually began to believe in his ability. Michael, maybe we should wait, I suggest to my husband. Michael looks confused. But it's just a gift from Mom. What could be wrong with it? At that moment, Ethan suddenly grabs the box and starts running towards the trash can. Ethan, no. Before we could stop him, he throws the box into the trash. We need to call the sheriff. Now! Ethan shouts. Michael and I stand there, dumbfounded. We can't understand why Ethan is so upset. But the fear in our son's eyes is real. Sarah, what should we do? Michael asks me. I take a deep breath, trying to think calmly. Should we trust Ethan's special ability, or ignore it as just a child's whim? Let's call Mr. Anderson from next door, I decide. He's a former police officer. Maybe he can take a look without making it official. Michael hesitates a bit but finally agrees. Okay, if you think that's best. I hug my son and speak to him gently. Ethan, it's okay. We're going to figure this out. You did the right thing by telling us. Ethan is still shaking, but he nods, looking a little calmer. Our family waits for Mr. Anderson to arrive, surrounded by an atmosphere of anxiety and tension. We had no idea then that the secret hidden in Eleanor's gift would drastically change our family's future. For the few minutes until Mr. Anderson arrived, our family sat quietly on the picnic blanket. Ethan was still trembling in my arms, and Michael kept glancing nervously at the trash can. Breaking the tense atmosphere, we heard Mr. Anderson's knock. Hello, Thompson family, Mr. Anderson greeted us with a gentle smile. He's a mild-mannered man in his late 60s, with striking silver hair and thoughtful blue eyes. What's going on? Did something happen? I briefly explained the situation. Mr. Anderson listened carefully, showing particular interest in Ethan's reaction. I see. It certainly is an unusual situation, he said. May I take a look at the box? Michael retrieved the box from the trash can and placed it on the table. It was an ordinary cardboard box with nothing particularly unusual about it. However, I could feel Ethan's body trembling more intensely. It's okay, Ethan, I said, hugging my son. Mr. Anderson is here. There's nothing to worry about. Mr. Anderson carefully observed the box and slowly began to open it. We watched with bated breath. As the lid opened, a strange smell wafted out. "This is..." Mr. Anderson's expression suddenly hardened. When he took out the contents of the box, we were speechless. Inside were several blood-stained cards. Each card was inscribed with terrible curses directed at our family, especially the baby in my womb. Oh my God! I couldn't help but cry out. Michael turned pale, and Ethan burst into tears. Mr. Anderson, maintaining his composure, said, "This is clearly a threat. We need to report this to the police immediately." With trembling hands, I took out my cell phone and dialed 911. Meanwhile, Mr. Anderson continued to carefully examine the contents of the box. "Sarah, Michael," he looked at us with a serious expression. "This isn't just a prank. I think this is the work of professional criminals. Is there anyone who holds a grudge against you?" We looked at each other. Eleanor's face flashed through my mind, but surely she wouldn't do something like this. "We don't know," Michael answered. "But why would anyone do this to us?" Just then, we heard the sound of sirens. The police had arrived. A patrol car stopped in front of our house, and 2 officers got out. The older male officer approached us and showed his badge. "I'm Sheriff Johnson. We received a 911 call." We explained the situation again, and Mr. Anderson gave his testimony as well. Sheriff Johnson frowned as he looked at the contents of the box. "This is indeed a serious matter. We'll need to take this evidence back for a closer examination." The young female officer carefully began putting the box and its contents into evidence bags. She was wearing gloves and proceeding with utmost caution. "Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, I'd like to ask you a few questions," Sheriff Johnson said. For the next hour or so, we continued to answer police questions. Recent events, acquaintances, and about Eleanor, my mother-in-law. "Eleanor, she's a bit difficult, but I can't imagine her doing something like this," I answered hesitantly. "I see," Sheriff Johnson nodded, taking notes. "Any other possibilities?" We could only shake our heads. When the questioning was over, the officers began loading the evidence into their car. Meanwhile, my head was full of confusion and anxiety. Why did this happen? What's going to happen to our family? Ethan squeezed my hand. "Mom, I'm scared." "It's okay, Ethan," I hugged my son. "The police will help us. We're safe." But I wasn't sure if that was really true. Sheriff Johnson approached to give us some final instructions. "Please remain extra vigilant for the time being. If you see any suspicious people or objects, contact us immediately. Also, I recommend you spend tonight somewhere else." We nodded, but the thought of leaving our own home pained my heart. I could no longer distinguish whether this was reality or just a bad dream. As we watched the patrol car drive away, I unconsciously placed my hand on my belly. I vowed in my heart that I would do anything to protect this little life. However, at that time, I couldn't even imagine what trials our family would face in the future. A week has passed since the initial police investigation. Our family had been staying at a relative's house, spending anxious days. Ethan had been having more nightmares, and Michael and I weren't getting enough sleep either. One morning, I received a call from Sheriff Johnson. "Mrs. Thompson, we have new information. Could you come down to the station?" Trying to suppress the pounding in my chest, I headed to the police station with Michael. Sheriff Johnson led us to a small conference room. "Please, have a seat," he began, carefully choosing his words. "We've got the results of the fingerprint analysis on the blood-stained cards. And..." He hesitated for a moment. "The fingerprints match those of your husband, Michael Thompson." I couldn't believe my ears. "What?" My voice cracked involuntarily. "That can't be." Michael's face turned pale. "No. It wasn't me," he desperately denied. Sheriff Johnson continued calmly. "Furthermore, we also conducted a DNA analysis of the blood used on the cards. This matches the blood of your sister, Emily Collins." My head was spinning. Michael and my sister Emily. Both names were unbelievable. Emily and I had been estranged for years, but to think she would be involved in something so terrible. "This must be some mistake," I said desperately. "Michael. Emily, it can't be." Sheriff Johnson looked at me with sympathetic eyes. "Mrs. Thompson, we're surprised too. But the evidence is clear. We're currently trying to locate Emily Collins. And..." He looked at Michael. "Mr. Thompson, we'd like you to voluntarily come in for questioning." Michael covered his face with trembling hands. "I understand. I'll cooperate. But it really wasn't me. I was overwhelmed by confusion, doubt, and deep sadness. I want to believe in my beloved husband. But I can't ignore the scientific evidence. Thinking about my sister Emily makes my chest tighten." As we left the police station, I made a decision. I have to see the truth with my own eyes. For the sake of protecting my family, and for the baby that's on the way. With the police's permission, I visited Emily's apartment. When I knocked on the door, after a while, my sister appeared. "Sarah." Emily looked surprised. "What's wrong?" I looked straight into Emily's eyes. "We need to talk." "Let me in." The apartment was a mess. Several strange paintings were hung on the walls. On the table, there was a blood-stained bandage. "Emily, answer me honestly. Did you do something to our family?" Emily averted her eyes for a moment. Then, with a sigh, she began to speak. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I was jealous. Every time I saw your happy family, it hurt so much." She started crying. "But I didn't mean for things to go this far. When I talked to Michael about it, he..." At that moment, a door at the back of the room opened, and Michael appeared. "Michael." I was speechless. Michael looked at me with a sad face. Sarah, let me explain everything. For the next hour, I listened to their confessions. How Michael and my sister had been meeting in secret. How they had planned to corner me. But how things had escalated beyond their expectations. As I listened, various emotions swirled within me. Anger, sadness, the pain of betrayal, and the fear of our family bonds crumbling. Why? I asked in a trembling voice. Why did you do this? Michael and my sister kept their heads down, unable to answer. I stood up and looked down at the two of them. That's enough. I'm going to tell the police everything. As I left the apartment, I held a new resolve in my heart. From now on, I'll live strong for Ethan and the baby that's coming. Even if I'm alone, we can be happy. That's what I believe. After the truth came to light, my life changed dramatically. Michael and my sister Emily faced legal consequences, and I made the decision to cut ties with them. However, during this difficult period, I received unexpected support. Mr. and Mrs. Anderson supported Ethan and me like family. Sarah, you're a strong woman. You'll get through this, Mr. Anderson's words gave me courage. On the day my new baby was born, Ethan and the Andersons were in the hospital room. As I held the tiny life in my arms, I thought, this is my new family. Mom, I promise to protect my little sister. Ethan's serious expression brought tears to my eyes. We've become stronger by overcoming these difficulties. Blood ties alone don't make a family. We've learned firsthand that true bonds are born from caring for each other. The future is still uncertain, but it's full of hope. The story of our new family begins here.